Hello everyone. So my name is Rachel and I wanted to talk to you today about dietetic internships and how to be successful in your internship. So first of all, I am first and foremost a dietetic intern. I am not a YouTuber, and I just want to say sorry in advance for my 100% lack of skills. But I wanted to go into information that I know that I would be curious about if I were to be applying to internships or have been accepted into an internship, and would want to know what I am getting myself into. So first of all, my internship was very heavy in MNT, and I'm not going to specifically say which internship I'm from, but I just wanted to talk about my personal experiences. I have experienced pretty much only inpatient, so that kind of influences what I am going to talk about, and I can tell you what the rotations that I've been experiencing so far. So I've been a part of surgery, medicine, colorectal oncology, and I've seen about half morning of bone marrow transplant dietitian, and I was shadowing her. It's, first of all, very stressful to get used to a new electronic medical record that you have. I mean, I had simulations in undergrad and grad school, but it's nothing like the real thing, unfortunately. Talking to the patient in a way where you are confident in what you're saying, and this has to do more with your comfortable, like knowing the material, your comfortability with the material, and your confidence in yourself. And when I was starting, I was really focused on wanting to have that real conversational type of dialogue with the patient, but that comes with time, and my preceptors were telling me that too. They were just saying, focus on talking to the patient, trying to get that material across to them, listening to them, and then also there would be times where you would say something and then the patient would say something else, and then you're so focused on your dialogue that you just kind of are like, okay, so anyway, just kind of like jump over it. So it is hard to have, that knowledge of the information and then incorporate it into a comfortable conversation. So that does come with time. And, we all make mistakes, and it's better just to have humor about it because no one's perfect, everyone's human, and you are still learning. And I think that is another important thing to keep in mind, is that you are learning. You should take the time to ask questions. And I think people with the set of mind where you're thinking, okay, if I had to do this tomorrow and cover for this dietitian, like what would I want to know? But going back to talking with patients, I think having experience talking to patients is really going to help you, because I had about 5 years of food service experience, so I was comfortable talking to patients, and I think just like having that foundation of being comfortable talking to patients, even if it's talking to people in general in any food service environment, that's really going to help you, because although the first few weeks I had the nerves of all this information, I'm trying to digest it, I'm trying to do my best every single day, I'm trying to impress the preceptors. When I got more comfortable with the information and got more used to the preceptors being there, I had that foundation to go back to and just spout off, my knowledge, and then just kind of like sit back into that comfortability with the patient. So I felt you have to be confident in your information, but also confident in yourself, and trust that this process will take you through to where you want to be in the end. Next, I want to talk about the electronic medical record, and I think it's important to keep in mind that this is a legal document, and also to keep in mind that the patient may be able to access this and read this at any time, and potentially read any chart note that you write. So I think that really helps kind of seat you into a spot of, okay, I have to state things matter-of-factly, and I have to say what I know is happening to communicate with the medical care team, but also not say in all caps, this patient was really rude to me, didn't listen at all. And you have to state things like, Mrs. X was a very pleasant blah blah blah, or Mrs. So-and-so was a little difficult to interact with, or unable to complete the education today. We'll try again tomorrow. Just kind of like brushing over the fact that they were not in the right state of mind or whatever. But I think the most common experience I had where a patient didn't want to hear the information was because they were still waking up from their surgery, and that anesthesia takes kind of like a long time to kind of wear off and to wake up their bowels. So, you know, they may not be eating, they may not want to talk about food right now. And it's hard when a patient is NPO and you need to go see them. And if you are experiencing a tough situation, you can leave and then come back and try and continue that education either later in the day or the next day, so that interaction doesn't translate into their electronic medical record. Another thing is like the NFPEs are also very new. Some dietitians have not really even had to touch a patient. So assessing their fat and muscle stores can be something that, you know, you don't know what you don't know. To me, this seems like what dietitians do, because that's what we started doing right off the bat with some of the younger dietitians, but it came out later when I was going through this internship that this isn't really how it's always been. So just interesting, and you know, these are new things that you have to include in your chart note. And just to be, it's hard to be matter of fact when some of it is hard to compare to their baseline. Like, oh, are they, you know, experiencing some fat and muscle loss, or are they a naturally skinny person? Like, I don't know their baseline. So to assess for malnutrition can be kind of difficult. And I think it is at some point your clinical judgment. So another thing is I want to talk about is nurses. And I want to kind of talk about how in my food service experience, I've had some coworkers, not in my internship, this was before this internship, were talking to nurses like, you know, there's some difficulties with communication and setting a tray down, and then by the time it gets into the room, it's cold or whatever. I think it is really important to remind yourself that nurses, they have a ton of stuff to do. And I know that calorie counts and the percent of a meal that a patient is eating is probably the last thing on their mind. I don't know, not to get mad at them for, you know, maybe not charting a one breakfast or something. You can always ask the patient, and I think that's, you know, a good use of your time if you feel they may be malnourished or you're considering recommending nutritional supplements to them. And I think it's a good conversation starter almost to talk about what are some of their barriers to eating more? Are they liking what they're eating? You know, let's talk about that. In my colorectal and oncology rotations, I was more focused on the bigger picture. Obviously, you know, colostomies, ileostomy bags, J pouches, Crohn's disease, like all those things, and including all the cancer and that impact. But I was becoming more familiar with how to write a chart note and to have my thoughts flow through the chart note. I was also focusing on how to leave notes for other dietitians. I think it was pretty hard to balance because you are, and you probably heard this from other people, but you're doing 1 to 4 weeks somewhere and then you're hopping somewhere else. So it's hard to kind of like gather in all that information, incorporate it into your student practice, and then hop into another dietitian, learning what's important to them and what they focus on getting done like in a certain way, and incorporating that also into your practice. And I think that is really hard, and I've heard from some preceptors that can be really hard for interns to kind of go and they want to just like do something correctly. And sometimes things can be done correctly in many ways, and I think that can be hard for some people to get used to and incorporate it maybe into their own way. Or, you know, you're gonna be a dietitian in hopefully less than a year, so you just kind of like gotta stick it out. To me, it seemed more like driver's ed, where it's like, you know, there's a way you're supposed to drive, and then there's a way that everyone else drives. So that is not wrong and illegal, but you know, you've got experience, you become a more defensive driver, you know what to look for, you know, you just like gain experience, and that just comes with time, I think. I've heard some people say during their internship that they got bored with certain educations, or didn't really like how certain things were done, or they felt it was repetitive, or they felt that they were a oral nutrition supplement salesperson. That I think is really important. Obviously it matters if this is what you want to do at the end of the day, or if you come into a internship knowing that this is not what you want to do. I think that really also plays a big part, but there's so much to learn from all your patients, and it's important to, I think, listen to them. I was on my surgery rotation for 4 weeks, and I felt that no two patients were the same. Everyone has different situations, people have different questions, react from the surgery or your education differently. Some people take longer to wake up from the anesthesia, you know, like, and you have to come back. So it's just like, no two people are the same, you know? So everyone's unique, all patients, preceptors, doctors, nurses, they all have something to teach you. So I hope this was helpful for you, and thanks for listening. Bye.